He moves! Right there! Wait! Right there!
It has finally happened. Dilophosaurus finally has been given the justice it truly deserves. So peeps, the other day, Dead Sound finally dropped a brand new entry in his Dinosauria series with Hunted by Moonlight. And this might just be one of, if not the best cases of simplicity equaling creativity, with it having a strong new visual style, plus this gave me a lot of Walking with Dinosaur vibes. But how does this episode stack up with some of the other ones in the series, and what exactly makes this short so special? Well, we need to talk about it. Hey guys, it's the Pink King here, and first off, I just want to say that if I sound a bit strange, it's just because I'm a little sick at the moment, so apologies if I sound a bit off, but I just needed to talk about this short as soon as I could. Because wow, I don't know how Dead Sound does it, but he keeps finding new ways to reinvent what he's done before. As while this is another almost documentary-like story with dinosaurs, this time it feels very unique to its own, with the carefully chosen colour palette being the first thing that comes to mind when looking at this short. In fact, going over most of the other Dinosauria projects, it seems like each episode strives to have their own unique style to them, whether it be monotone colours of Old Buck, or the more watercolour aesthetic of Ancient Spring. Each short feels really distinct visually, and Hunted by Moonlight is no different. With this one being set at night, we get a lot of blues broken up by occasional oranges and reds with blood. It feels like something taken straight out of a fantasy novel, and honestly, that's probably the most accurate way to describe this short. Almost like a classic dark fairy tale, in similar vein to something like the original Pinocchio story or Hansel and Gretel, which, after seeing the making of video, seems to have been the intention, with David putting a lot of emphasis on the almost cautionary tale side to this story, with the curious young dinosaurs going into an enchanted forest at night in search of food, only to be confronted by the horrors of the night. And it's here where I want to talk about the Dilophosaurus, because despite not being on screen that much, this thing made such a good impression, with not only the incredible design and that beautiful feathered frill, but also the way it camouflages throughout this episode. David really made great work of framing this magnificent beast, keeping it just obscured enough to not notice it immediately, but caught off guard when we do notice it. The way he sets up the Dilophosauruses, building tension gradually until we get to the big chase, it all feels masterful, honestly. You can definitely tell David has learned a lot from his time making short films, and has really found that perfect balance between not only gorgeous animations, but genuine stories with substance, especially a story where no words are being spoken. This short both leaves a lot to be interpreted, but also has a defined narrative that's thematically brilliant, such as with the Dilophosauruses reflecting the small little Scootosaurs. That's a level of detail that wasn't necessary, but I'm so grateful that he decided to include it, because when you pay attention, you often notice hidden details just like that, and you're rewarded for paying attention even more. Now hold on peeps, do you want to be featured in a video? Just like Cyan Duck, the Grizzled, and the Gaming Dragon? Then you need to subscribe right now, because I'm on a mission to get to 30,000 subscribers, and peeps, I need your help in order to reach it. So, if you want to help me on my mission and potentially get a shout out, then be sure to subscribe right now and comment down below telling me you subscribed, and who knows, it might just be your name as someone featured in my very next video. But with that peeps, let's get back into Dinosauria. However, the real standout of this short would have to be its score. Ivan Dutch does a brilliant job at tapping into that sort of primal fantasy aesthetic. It's both majestic and yet incredibly haunting. The music here really heightens what it is we're actually seeing, because it's not so overly in your face that it feels forced. or so quiet that it might as well be non-existent. It strikes that perfect in-between of being just quiet enough to put you on the edge of your seat, but also to make you feel uncomfortable, but not enough for you to zone out. If anything, it's because of that I got sucked into this story even more so. Seriously, I recommend you guys go listen to the music from this short. It was such a brilliant use of subtlety that doesn't get appreciated nearly enough in regards to soundtracks today, because it's often that the more quieter moments make bigger moments feel more impactful, and nowhere is that more relevant than with soundtracks. And if anything, that probably goes the same overall. This short starts out as just being a calm, whimsical story about animals being curious that it perfectly builds to what's destined to come. Heck, at the end when the Dilophosaurus pulled the little dinosaur from the burrow, it caught me so off guard that I legit jumped out of my seat because it was that surprising. Although in saying that, the only real critique I'd have to give this short in particular would probably have to be the ending, as while this story on its surface does look like a typical fairy tale, it still feels almost like a documentary style of story. And so that sudden ending where the small dinosaur gets saved by the bigger ones did feel, a bit too much like a classic fairy tale. That it did sort of feel underwhelming overall. I know this is going to be a quite divisive complaint, as, everyone has their own preferences with these sort of things, but for me at least, I felt like the save was a bit too on the nose for me. After all, these dinosaurs aren't really established to have any sort of relationship outside of the fact that they live in the same environment, so them deciding to rescue them did feel, a bit unearned. But again, this is going to be something a lot of people probably disagree with me on, because it all comes down to personal preferences at the end of the day, and I could see why a lot of people won't mind this decision, but for me, I felt like it just took me out of the story in the end. But outside of that one nitpick, I really do feel like Hunted by Moonlight is a solid entry in the Dinosauria series, with it playing to the story's simplicity perfectly, while still allowing room for complexity in the hidden details that reward you for paying attention. In comparison to some of the other episodes, however, that simplicity will unfortunately mean it's not going to top any lists of mine. I personally feel like the last short was way stronger, but that's just because, in my opinion, that short was more my style. Because this one in particular is perfect in its own way, and I love how each episode is so different and rich in its own style. I love the atmosphere, the dinosaur designs, the gorgeous detail for not only the animals, but the world too, was not only impressive, but breathtaking. And the idea of basing this story of dark fairy tales was such a stroke of genius that I'm surprised more people haven't taken that approach. Honestly, if I had to compare this series as a whole, I'd say that this episode in particular felt like the most Walking with Dinosaurs out of all of them. I got a lot of the Frozen Forest vibes here, and while others may think that's dull, I really like that because it kind of just proves how timeless the original Walking With series truly was, and I feel like that same charm is in bucket loads here in Hunted by Moonlight. Again, to think that these shorts are all practically created by just one guy is beyond impressive. I recommend you guys go check out Hunted by Moonlight and give me your honest opinions here, because I want to know, what do you guys think of Hunted by Moonlight? Was it your favourite short out of the most recent ones, or do you have any differing opinions to me? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm interested to see what everyone has to say on this. And if you enjoyed today's video, again, I'm sorry for sounding weird, I'm a little sick at the moment, to like this video and subscribe. It will not only help me make videos like this faster, but might actually help me feel better. Yeah, totally. But with that, peeps, it's been the Pink King here, and I will see you all next time.